Salida, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim and welcome to the Sounds German review of the new Stoneman album Geil und Elektrisch. This is a Swiss Neue Deutsche Härte band that has been using English lyrics for almost a decade before switching over to German lyrics and also going through a change of style in terms of their music. However, I should probably say that prior to this album, I have not really heard of these guys. In his review for the Erdling album Dämon, my co-writer Timo said that if you want to do Neue Deutsche Härte these days, you should either be really good or really creative. There are a lot of bands in this genre, and let's be real here, Rammstein has become the face and the standard of that genre, not only over here in Germany, but globally. And sure, it's pretty clear that being a second Rammstein is highly unlikely for any band. But if I'd had to do a quick analysis of why they are as big as they are, I'd put that down to a few factors. You have an incredibly charismatic voice from Till Lindemann, the presence of the band is simply incredible, and while not necessarily complex, their compositions are well crafted and catchy with meaty riffs and drums and enticing synths. And of course, in the beginning, in the earlier days, there was the shock factor too. Stoneman, on the other hand, has basically none of this, even though it feels they at least kinda tried with the shock factor, but that fell just flat on his face. But the opening track, Die General, can somewhat deceive about that fact. It starts out with some short, sharply droning synths before you get a wall of electric guitar riffs and some mid-tempo drumming. You even get a bass line delivering the melody in the verse here. And while the lyrics come off as an understanding of BDSM that was won through porn movies, with its like 2 or 3 military analogies and bootlicking and all that, it's bearable. But with the second track, Niemandsland, the downward spiral starts spinning, both in terms of music and lyrics. One thing you will find on this album time and again is that the wall of electric guitars I mentioned before is almost the complete presence of the electric guitars on this album. Just from the get-go of the second track, they are just this indistinguishable wall of noise with barely a real melody in there. They just drone on sheer endlessly, like they do in Niemandsland, or in short bursts like for example in the track Fass mich nicht an. It almost feels like the guitar is only here to deliver some kind of support for the synths, which wouldn't be too bad if they would actually deliver some kind of support and not just drone on in the background. Even in moments where the music should blast the dust off your speakers, it all comes off as, well, it just lacks any bite. The prime example for this would be the song Tanzmusik. It's the somewhat self-celebratory track about how the music forces everybody to dance until the floor breaks. Any other band would turn this track up to 11 to get the audience really boiling, but just once more the guitars drone on around a bit and nothing else. There is just no energy behind the composition and mix here, no oomph. It sounds like the band itself was bored. Thank God though, the clean vocals you get as support for the normal ones in the hook here are only used sparingly because my god, are they dreadful. I guess they wanted to show a contrast to the normal, rougher sounding vocals with this, and it sure works as a contrast, but that doesn't change the fact that the clean vocals simply don't sound good. It sounds like someone singing who really can't sing and has no business of doing so without some extensive training on an album. The main vocals, on the other hand, certainly have an aura to them. Vocalist Mickey Chicks. Yes, really. Anyways, he has this slightly rasp in his voice and delivers this half-spoken, half-sung performance, which is kinda typical for the genre, but his voice can reach some almost sinister registers if he really tries to. I could also see his vocals bounce off a second voice really well because of this, just not with the second vocals that can be found on this album. And overall, the lyrics don't fare much better, I fear. Dein General and Tanzmusik are probably the best tracks in that regard, and they are, well, as I said before, they are bearable. The eponymous track Geil und Elektrisch focuses around banging robot hookers, and still manages to disappoint for some reason. On the one hand, the track is simply not explicit enough to be shocking. On the other hand, it starts some narrative about the robot hookers needing money for, well, whatever reason. Fremd, meanwhile, is all about cheating on your spouse, but delivers no reason for what most would consider despicable behavior. The only sort of narrative we get here is it's just the way he is, and if he wouldn't act this way, he wouldn't be himself anymore, and the rest of this track is almost 3 minutes of describing how much he enjoys cheating. Just, man, dude, get a divorce. Für immer, meanwhile, is the quote-unquote romantic track with analogies like "you are the dynamite, I'm the explosion." So yeah, nothing short of poetry. I almost can't blame them for the lyrics being as lacking in actual content as they are, because just look at the playtimes of the songs. Some tracks don't even reach the 3-minute mark, and only a single one track manages to get past 4 minutes. Even if they were able to write a good narrative or just good lyrics in general, which given the tracks here I somewhat doubt, to be honest, they simply never took the time needed for something to develop. Instead you get songs like Niemandsland, which basically make fun of people for not being famous and how they are quote-unquote nobodies who can only dream of fame. Given the quality of their music, I especially enjoyed the line in this track about how narcissism and vanity are the worst plagues of our time. One would assume with 12 tracks they would have struck gold somewhere by accident, but no, simply no. What little good this album has to offer gets completely negated and outweighed by the negative aspects. The main vocals are pretty decent, but the support vocals are completely trash and the lyrics are garbage through and through that can be described as juvenile in its best moments. The synths are not bad, but the drumming is pretty boring and the e-guitars mostly just create a wall of background noise. And the 2 electro remixes of Dein General and Geil und Elektrisch at the end of the disc aren't really saving graces either, but at least the composition here has a clearer line that it feels like the main tracks had. But by the end of it, I was just really happy this album was over. So, as a conclusion, I have absolutely no idea who this album could be for, so I'll say even if you are itching for some Neue Deutsche Härte music, just move on, give this one a pass. Geil und Elektrisch is simply not worth it. I don't know what I expected from an album that's named Horny and Electric, to be honest, but I expected something more. The lyrics, the mix, the compositions, just this album lacks in pretty much every department. It's not worth your money and even less so your time. So, I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, leave a like for the video or just subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and want more reviews for bands and artists you have probably never heard of before. If you have listened to the album, let me know with a comment what you thought about it, and if you want to check it out now, you can find all the relevant links in the description below. You can also find my social media accounts linked there. If you want to check out some random music, I do post at least one music video per day there. Thank you very much for watching, I hope to see you again next time. Have a nice day, Salida.